Here's my top 5 t-shirt design tips that will help you make top selling t-shirts. What's up everybody and welcome back to the channel. If you're brand new here, hey, my name's Kerry. Thanks for watching today. Let's jump in. Let's kick it off with my first tip, bigger is better. Now, when it comes to t-shirt design and the area that you have to actually design in, you generally want your designs to fill up more of the area versus just a little bit of the area. And one of the reasons for that is that the reason we wear t-shirts with designs on them is not actually for us to look at, it's for other people to look at, right? We're not often looking down at our t-shirt, so other people are looking at the t-shirt and trying to read it or make out what the picture is. And so generally you want it to be bigger rather than smaller. And in most cases, it looks better when the design is bigger rather than smaller. Over the years, I've seen a lot of students make this mistake in just making their designs too small and maybe hard to read or hard to see with your eyes. And so you just want to maximize the area and make your designs bigger rather than small. If we jump over to our favorite spy tool, Profit Busters, and I filter this down to just t-shirts, this shows us the best-selling t-shirts right now across the internet. And as you can see, as we look at most of these designs, they're pretty big designs. They're bold, they're up front, and they fill up the maximum amount of space that you have on the t-shirt. Now, this isn't always the case. Some designs may look better smaller, but as a generality, and that's what most of these tips are, just speaking generally, the bigger designs that take up more of the t-shirt are going to sell better. The number 2 tip, simple sells. Another mistake I see from t-shirt designers and t-shirt sellers online a lot of times is that they try to make really complex designs. Too many fonts or too many colors, or they try to make artwork that is just super intricate. Whereas the opposite is actually what sells. Many times the simplest designs sell. Just a text-based design of white text on a black shirt or something very simple like that. Maybe just a simple design element, some simple artwork that only has 1 or 2 colors often outsells the super complex design. And I see this time and time again. It's been true for me and it's true for so many that those simple designs often sell the best. Again, if we look at the exact same thing here, these are designs that are top selling designs right now at the time of recording this video. And just right here on the top 3, we see a 1 color design, a 1 color design, a 1 color design with 1 to 2 fonts. And as we look through these, sure, you'll see a few that'll have a little bit more intricate design. Maybe something like this, which is really cool looking and is selling well. But the majority of these you're gonna see are gonna be super simple. Even something like this that says Lucky on it is just a simple cursive font with a little icon below it. And these are the kind of designs that you wanna focus on. 1, 2, maybe 3 colors maximum. And just a 1 piece of art with some text with it, right? These designs are almost always going to outperform the super complex designs. And one of the reasons for that is they just look more professional when they're simple, right? When we try to do too much, they just look jumbled and they look crowded and they don't look as clean, and people like clean and professional looking designs. Speaking of designs, don't go baking my heart. That sounds like something my wife needs for Valentine's Day. Let's buy it. Number 3, less colors equals more dollars. So going right along with our number 2 tips, try to reduce the colors that you are working with in your t-shirt designs. The reason it's so important is, are you thinking about starting up an online t-shirt or apparel business this year? Or maybe you need some help getting your t-shirt or apparel business off the ground? If so, I want to invite you to go watch our free class over at shirtschool.com. In this class, I'll show you how we've helped thousands of people from around the world start, grow, and scale 6-figure and 7-figure online apparel businesses. I know you'll get a ton of value out of it, so make sure you go watch that free class over at shirtschool.com. The reason it's so important is, number 1, we know that less colors just sells better. But also number 2, it makes the color combinations between the t-shirt and the design a lot easier, right? If you have less colors in your design, you'll be able to find a complementary t-shirt color to put that on much easier. Now, I've struggled with this a lot over the years, is where I'll make a design without thinking about the actual t-shirt color while I'm making the design. And then when I go to put it on a t-shirt, I'm struggling to find the right color for that t-shirt. So by reducing the number of colors in my design, as well as designing on a background of the color of t-shirt that I want to sell, This will make the design much more professional looking, and it will make sure that our colors are complementary, and it will also just make that design much more attractive to the eye because those colors work well together. Again, looking at another page of Profit Busters and just looking at some of the top selling designs right now, you see things like this first design where it's just one color in the design, right? And we'll see some that have just a couple colors, but generally you're not gonna see a ton of colors in the design. You'll see that as you can reduce the number of colors, you'll have a better selling t-shirt design. My number 4 tip is don't start from scratch, model designs you love. And so you wanna model winning designs instead of just starting from scratch with no idea. Now, the worst thing that can ever happen for a designer is just staring at a blank page, trying to come up with design with no inspiration. Now, there's an easy remedy for this. Number 1, you wanna think about where your ideal customer for your brand is already shopping, because here's the reality. All people that you're trying to sell to, for the most part, are already buying t-shirts and clothing from some other brands. So it's your job to find out what those brands are. Now, let's say it's a brand like PacSun. As I go out to PacSun, just a super popular, clothing seller brand here in the United States, and I look at their graphic t-shirts, I can see what kind of designs that they have. We know these are selling, right, on their website. So we can look at some of these designs and we can grab inspiration from these designs if our customer is shopping here, right? We want to make sure that this brand is serving our demographic. Now, you can do this with any, brand that you think your customer would love, but go out and start taking note of the types of designs that are on their website, and preferably if you can sort those by best selling, that will give you an even better idea of what is actually selling. Now, the first thing I wanna make sure you know is that do not copy any of this stuff on here. We're not trying to create another New Balance t-shirt or a Street Fighter t-shirt. That's not what we're aiming to do. What we're actually aiming to do is take some of these elements of these designs and put them into our own design. So what could we take? Well, number 1, we can take these color combinations as inspiration. So if we look at this Puma team shirt right here, we see that this is kind of maybe a faded black on this cream, orange, peach kind of t-shirt, right? So that might be a color combination that we wanna use in our design. Even this New Balance t-shirt right here, we might take this and we might be able to grab some of those colors that work really nicely together to create a color palette that we could design with. Some other things that we can take, not just color combos, but actual layouts. So if we look at something like this Columbia sportswear t-shirt, we've got curved text with a circular, with a circle enclosing that text. We've got some cool color combos, and we've also got like an icon in the middle that maybe separates some of that text. So that might be we could do something similar like that was maybe inspired by that type of design. Even up here, I saw this Converse Cons t-shirt. Well, I really like the way that we have this hollowed out Converse at the top, and then with some solid background on the bottom with this kind of rectangular box, right? So I could create a really simple design that uses some of those layout inspiration from my own design that could be super cool. So color combos, layout. The other thing I like to take from inspiration from this are font styles. I like to look at t-shirts that people are already buying and see what kind of font styles I might be able to use, right? I might wanna use a similar font style to some of these t-shirts in my own design. And what this does is it gives you a higher probability of actually selling your designs because you're modeling after designs that are already successful. This is a huge tip. My number 5 tip is to know your print method. You wanna know how your t-shirts are being printed, what method is being used to print those. If you're using something like print on demand, in most cases, they're gonna be using direct to garment printing. If you're using something like screen printing, that's very different from direct to garment, and those are printed in different ways, and so you need to keep that in mind when you're doing your designs. There are other types of t-shirt print methods, but these are the most common: direct to garment and screen printing. So let me give you a few tips around these 2 types of printing. First, let's talk about direct to garment. Now again, if you're using print on demand, direct to garment is gonna be the main way that your t-shirts are going to be printed. So there are a couple tips that'll really help you when it comes to direct to garment if you're designing for direct to garment. Number one, pictures look a lot better on direct to garment. Anything that has a lot of colors. If you're wanting to print a picture of a person or a landscape or any type of like picture with really intricate colors, direct to garment is going to do a much better job of that, and it's going to be a lot easier to print than it will be with screen printing. The other thing about direct to garment is it doesn't handle big splotches of ink the same color very well. So if you were to have just a big white box on a black t-shirt, it would not look good at all on a direct to garment printed t-shirt. So try to keep that in mind when you're designing, that you don't want a big block of ink of any one color in any one area. A big bold block is not gonna look very good with direct to garment. So if you make something that's a little bit thinner or is not just a big splotch of a color, it's gonna look better with direct to garment. Now, screen printing on the other hand is interesting, because with screen printing, when they go to print the t-shirts, they're gonna be actually trying to find the right color for that design. Sometimes they're even mixing ink together to find the correct colors. So oftentimes with screen printing, the color can be quite a bit different from what you've actually designed on your screen, because the screen printer is actually gonna have to try to match the color. So that's something to keep in mind. But the biggest thing you wanna keep in mind when you're designing for screen printing is that you wanna generally have less colors. Most of the time, screen printing is gonna max out at about 6 colors. And in fact, when you have a design that has 6 colors in the design, it's gonna be really hard for that screen printer to print that design, because the way that screen printing works is that they're having to line up all the colors on the t-shirt design. If those screens are aligned slightly off, you're gonna get a really weird, funky looking design. So the less colors you can have in your design on screen printing, probably the better results you're going to have. So keep that in mind when you're doing screen printing, that you're probably not gonna wanna do any kind of photo or picture or anything with a ton of intricate colors and different gradients and those kind of things. You're gonna wanna have pretty standard colors when it comes to screen printing. So that does it. Take these 5 tips, take them into your next t-shirt designs, and go crush it.